In 1943, President Franklin Roosevelt met Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin to discuss the post-war world order, envisioning an international organization to promote global peace, equality, and justice. Roosevelt proposed a worldwide union of 35 nations that would convene regularly, discuss global issues, and make recommendations through a central agency empowered to coordinate but not to coerce. The organization aimed to prevent future conflicts, promote economic stability, and ensure humanitarian aid, reflecting lessons from the devastation of World War II and the League of Nations weaknesses. Chapter 2: The Executive Council. Roosevelt suggested an executive council for non-military issues such as food security, public health, and post-war reconstruction, representing key nations from every region of the world. Members would include the US, UK, Soviet Union, China, 2 European nations, a South American state, a Far Eastern state, a Near Eastern state, and 1 representative of British dominions. Stalin questioned whether council decisions would be binding. Roosevelt clarified they would serve as guidelines only, respecting national sovereignty and the independence of member states. The U.S. Congress would reject any council decision conflicting with U.S. law, ensuring that America's participation would not compromise constitutional principles. Chapter 3: The Four Policemen. Another body, the Four Policemen, would have greater authority than the Executive Council, composed of the US, UK, Soviet Union, and China, to address urgent military and security issues. This elite group would act decisively in conflicts threatening global peace, mobilizing military resources when needed, but still respecting each nation's sovereignty. Stalin expressed reservations about China's inclusion, fearing it lacked global influence, and also worried that other nations might reject such concentrated power. Roosevelt emphasized that the U.S. would contribute selectively, sending ships and planes to conflict zones rather than imposing military dominance on allies. Chapter 4: Regional Committees. Prime Minister Winston Churchill proposed regional committees for Europe, the Americas, and the Far East to address local issues, supplementing the global organization's work. These regional bodies were designed to manage post-war recovery, trade, and humanitarian efforts while reflecting the geopolitical realities and cultural complexities of their regions. The combination of global and regional structures aimed to balance universal principles of freedom and justice with local autonomy and practical implementation. Chapter 5: African American Soldiers' Perspective. Private Charles F. Wilson, an African American soldier, wrote to Roosevelt on the 9th of May 1944, highlighting a glaring contradiction. The U.S. preached equality abroad, but denied it to black citizens at home. Wilson detailed systemic discrimination, segregated units, and relegation to menial roles such as bartending and labor work. While white soldiers enjoyed opportunities for advancement and combat leadership, He argued that promoting global equality through the United Nations lacked credibility if African Americans could not experience true equality within their own military. But Wilson's letter questioned the moral authority of the U.S. to advocate for human rights internationally while perpetuating racial injustice domestically. Chapter 6. Paradox of Ideals and Reality. Wilson's observations revealed the tension between American ideals and reality. Democracy and freedom were championed abroad. Yet African Americans endured legal, social, and institutionalized discrimination at home. The paradox undermined the United States' moral leadership in shaping the UN, highlighting the inseparable link between domestic reform and global advocacy. African American soldiers' experiences mirrored broader societal inequities, showing that the fight for equality in the military foreshadowed the civil rights struggle of the post-war era. Chapter 7. Historical Context of Racial Inequality. Segregation in the military reflected Jim Crow laws and systemic racism, which limited African Americans' access to leadership, training, and combat positions despite proven bravery and competence. Black soldiers' contributions in the war effort were critical, yet they faced discrimination from peers and commanders, which created moral contradictions in Roosevelt's vision of a world based on freedom, equality, and justice. This reality created pressure on policymakers to reconcile global ideals with domestic injustice, a debate that shaped U.S. civil rights reforms in the post-war decades. Chapter 8. Roosevelt, Stalin, and the Moral Dimension. Roosevelt's discussions with Stalin focused on power, sovereignty, and practical governance, yet they also intersected with questions of human rights, equality, and the ethical responsibilities of member states. The UN structure sought to uphold freedom, justice, and equality globally. But African American soldiers like Wilson highlighted that these principles must also be reflected in the domestic sphere to have legitimacy. Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill each navigated the balance between national interest and global responsibility, revealing the complexities of post-war diplomacy and institutional design. Chapter 9. Conclusion. African Americans and the UN Vision. The post-war United Nations was envisioned as a guardian of peace, equality, and justice through the Executive Council for Policemen and regional committees. However, African American soldiers' experiences revealed a paradox. Promoting democracy abroad required addressing racial discrimination at home to maintain credibility. Wilson's letter symbolized the moral imperative linking domestic equality to international leadership, reminding the world that global justice cannot succeed without addressing inequality within the nation, promoting it.